We are joined now by Dr. Rosslyn Biggs, our extension veterinarian and beef cattle specialist. And Rosslyn, the first cases of avian influenza reported in Oklahoma this year. Kind of get us up to speed.
So we're seeing things similar to what we saw last year. We've had documented highly pathogenic avian influenza in wild waterfowl in Tulsa County, in particular in a swan and a Canada goose.
So you and fellow veterinarians and the state veterinarian office really kind of start mobilizing, right, with that education piece. Is that what's happening?
Absolutely. We want to get the word out, in particular to poultry producers, and for certain our backyard poultry producers, that enhanced biosecurity really needs to be elevated right now, and taking a look at ways to separate our domestic poultry, so think backyard chickens, for instance, and making sure we're separating them and have clear boundaries between those animals and wild birds.
So the separation, that's kind of the main thing as far as logistics, but what are some of those other best practices for biosecurity?
Absolutely. Best practices for biosecurity really starts at keeping my flock at the house separate and distinct from travel and movement. So I don't want to go visit a neighbor with poultry and come back. Or this time of year, if we're duck hunters, for instance, I don't want to go duck hunt at the pond and then come back and take care of my birds. So we have physical separation from people. We also have physical separation from birds. So if we're buying new birds, or we have birds that go to some other location and come back, we want to make sure that we're isolating, quarantining those birds, if you will, for a minimum of really 30 days before we introduce them to the flock. And then we also want to have daily inspections of our existing birds, looking for kind of classic clinical signs of avian influenza.
And what are some of those signs?
Think about that influenza experience, discharge from the eyes, discharge from the nose, coughing, sneezing, inappetence, and even in severe cases, particularly with highly pathogenic avian influenza, we can really see sudden death, unfortunately.
We talked about the animal side. What do I need to keep in mind kind of on the human side?
Well, avian influenza does have a component of it that can be zoonotic, so it can be transmitted to humans, although that risk is extremely, extremely low. So first and foremost, we want consumers to feel comfortable that their eggs and other poultry products are safe to eat. We, of course, from a food safety aspect, we want to make sure they're cooked appropriately to appropriate temperatures. And then from an animal handling piece of it, if we own birds ourselves, we want to make sure, again, that we're looking for those signs of influenza and making sure that if we ourselves have influenza, that we're not interacting with our birds, meaning if we have human influenza, that we're not interacting with our birds.
If someone suspects they have a sick bird, important to reach out to your veterinarian, right?
It's key to reach out to your veterinarian. And if a bird owner does not have a veterinarian, the state veterinarian's office with the Oklahoma Department of Agriculture is always on call to receive those type of notifications too.
We're just kind of scratching the surface today, but the OSU Extension has a lot of resources, educational materials available.
Absolutely. Good fact sheets. We have an online backyard poultry course that folks can take. Definitely take a look at extension options.
Okay, Dr. Biggs, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
And for a link to those extension materials, go to sunup.okstate.edu.